Lila VO. 2 days before Christmas, and my apartment smelled like vanilla and cinnamon, peace in the form of scented candles. Outside, New York looked like a snow globe someone kept shaking, flakes swirling under the streetlights, people rushing with shopping bags and scarves flying. I tied a red ribbon around a small gold box, a gift for a client, and smiled. It's strange how success can feel quiet, like the hum of a heater or the sound of your own steady breathing. My phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced down, Dad. For a second, my fingers froze above the ribbon. His name looked so out of place against the twinkling Christmas lights. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year. Not since that argument. Not since he told me I was too proud for my own good. I stared at the screen, heart tapping against my ribs. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but curiosity, that stubborn, aching part that still wanted his approval, made me swipe. Lila softly. Hey, Dad. His voice crackled through the speaker, too casual, too familiar. Lila, your brother's throwing a Christmas get-together at the house. You should come. I swallowed hard. That house. Those memories. Lila VO. 2 days before Christmas, and the ghosts of my past were calling. I told myself I'd moved on, but even now, the mention of home could still shake something I thought I'd buried long ago. Soft pause. Lila VO. Funny how the holidays bring back everything, even the things you swore you'd outgrown. Lila VO. When I think back to that day, the memory plays like an old movie reel, muted colors, low light, and that constant smell of pine needles and floor polish. It was 2 days before Christmas, and I was 21, still living at home, still believing that if I worked hard enough, my dad might finally see me as more than just the daughter who helps out. The Parker house was chaos. My dad barked orders from the living room while my brother, Ethan, lounged on the couch with his friends, college guys in hoodies, laughing loud enough to drown out my thoughts. I remember dusting the shelves, my hands raw from cleaning spray. The smell of lemon cleaner mixed with peppermint candles, and it made me dizzy. Then I heard him. Dad's voice, sharp as ever. Dad, off-screen, teasing. Lila, the kitchen's still a mess. Hurry up, your brother's friends are here. I turned, holding a dish towel. I've been cleaning since morning. Maybe Ethan can. He cut me off with that familiar smirk. Your brother's friends don't need to see him doing housework. Just finish up, okay? Lila VO. That smirk. God, I still remember it, like he was proud of putting me in my place. The boys laughed. One of them winked, another whispered something that made Ethan snort. And I just stood there, feeling smaller than I ever had. My mother had passed 3 Christmases before that, and she used to tell me, a woman's worth isn't in how quiet she can make herself, Lila. It's in how brave she can be when nobody listens. I looked toward the mantel. Her favorite ornament still hung there, a glass snowflake, cracked down one side but still catching the light. I wiped my hands on my apron and whispered under my breath, maybe it's time I stop waiting to be seen. Dad called again. You done yet, Lila? I didn't answer. I just took one last look around, at the half-decorated tree, the laughter that wasn't mine and that broken snowflake, then walked to my room. Lila VO. That was the night I packed my bags. No big speech. No dramatic goodbye. Just quiet steps down the hall and the cold air biting my face as I left. I didn't even take a coat. Just Mom's snowflake ornament in my pocket, the only piece of warmth I had left. Soft pause. Faint wind sound. Lila VO. Sometimes, leaving doesn't sound like courage. It sounds like silence, and a door clicking shut behind you. Lila VO. When I left home, I didn't have a plan. Just one suitcase, $200, and a promise I'd made to myself. Never go back until I had something to be proud of. The first few weeks were brutal. I slept on a friend's couch in Queens, taking small shifts at a coffee shop downtown. Mornings smelled like burnt espresso and rain-soaked jackets. My hands were always sticky with syrup, my feet always sore. But every night, I'd take out that little cracked snowflake and place it on the nightstand, like a reminder that broken things could still shine. There was this woman, Margaret Hale, who used to come in every morning around 7. Always the same order. Almond latte, extra hot, 1 pump vanilla. She'd sit near the window, typing away on her laptop, dressed like she'd stepped out of a magazine. One morning, she smiled at me and said, "You have an eye for detail, honey. You noticed I switched earrings today before I even sat down." I laughed. "Guess I just notice things people don't." She tilted her head, intrigued. "You ever think about design? We need people who notice." That was the start of everything. Lila Vio. Margaret owned a boutique interior design firm in Manhattan. She offered me an internship, unpaid at first, but I didn't care. I worked days at the cafe, nights sketching ideas under cheap yellow lamplight. I watched how she handled clients. Calm, confident, never apologizing for taking space. There were moments I wanted to quit. Like the night I missed the last train and had to walk 10 blocks in the snow with my shoes soaked through. Or the day a client looked me up and down and said, "You don't look like a designer." But I kept hearing Mom's voice in my head, "Be brave when nobody listens." Years passed in a blur of small victories. My first paycheck from a design project, framed in my apartment. My first client who cried happy tears seeing her new living room. My first Christmas tree, decorated alone, but peaceful, glowing mine. Lila Vio. I never told Dad what I was doing. Whenever he called, I'd keep it vague. "Oh, just working with a friend, staying busy." Because part of me still wanted him to ask more. To sound proud. He never did. Then one day, Margaret retired and left the business to me. I renamed it Lumiere Interiors, Light. Because that's what I'd been searching for all along. Now, I design spaces for others to feel at home, the kind of warmth I once begged for. And somehow, without meaning to, I became successful. More than I ever thought possible. But success is funny. It doesn't erase the ache, it just quiets it until something brings it back. Like a phone call. From your father. 2 days before Christmas. Soft piano fades back in. Lila Vio. I told myself I'd never go back. But that voice in my chest, the one that still wanted to be seen, whispered that maybe it was time. Maybe this year he'd finally see me for who I became. Lila Vio. I told myself it was just a visit. A quick stop, a polite smile, then goodbye. But when I stepped out of the elevator that morning, carrying a small gift bag and a heart full of nerves, I knew this wasn't going to be simple. My building's lobby was glowing, garlands twisted around marble pillars, the scent of pine and vanilla drifting through the air. The doorman greeted me by name. "Morning, Miss Parker. Your guests just arrived." Guests. That word hit harder than I expected. I walked in and found them standing in the center of my living room, Dad, Ethan, and 2 of his old friends from college. The same ones who used to sit on our couch years ago, laughing while I scrubbed the kitchen floor. They looked stunned. My apartment wasn't extravagant, but it was beautiful. Soft cream walls, gold fixtures, a tall Christmas tree twinkling beside the window. The shelves behind them held design awards, framed magazine covers. Lumiere Interiors, the woman who redefined warmth. Ethan blinked first. This is your place?" I smiled. "Yeah. Cozy, right?"
Dad didn't speak.
He just stared, jaw tight, eyes scanning every corner like he was trying to find proof it wasn't real. Lila Vio. For years, I dreamed of this moment. Not revenge, not triumph, just the chance to stand where I didn't have to shrink anymore. I walked to the kitchen and started the coffee machine. The smell filled the room, rich and comforting. "Cream and sugar, Dad?" I asked casually, just like old times. He hesitated. Sure." The irony wasn't lost on either of us. When I handed him the mug, his hand trembled slightly. "So," he said, clearing his throat, "well, what exactly do you do now?" I glanced at the magazine cover behind him. "I run an interior design firm downtown. Lumiere Interiors." One of Ethan's friends let out a low whistle. "Wait, you're that Lila Parker? My company hired your team for the winter gala last year." He looked embarrassed. "You gave us a discount, I think." I smiled politely. "I didn't know you were Ethan's friend." "Don't worry, we charge full price now." Lila Vio. For a second, no one spoke. The silence felt thick, like snowfall before a storm. Then Dad laughed, a short, uncomfortable sound. Well, guess you made it, huh? His words hung between us, clumsy and heavy. I wanted to say I didn't just make it, I built it. But instead, I set my coffee down and looked him in the eye. Do you remember that Christmas, Dad? When you told me to hurry because Ethan's friends were over? He blinked, caught off guard. Lila, that was years ago. Don't. No, I said softly. I remember it because that was the night I realized I'd never be enough in your eyes unless I served someone else. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Lila, come on, it wasn't like that. I turned to him, calm. It was exactly like that. But it's okay. Because that night pushed me to build a life where I never had to earn respect by scrubbing floors again. Lila Vio. I watched Dad's face fall. Guilt, pride, confusion. All tangled together. For once, he didn't have a comeback. Then I smiled. Not to gloat, but to release years of silence. You know, I said lightly, your brother's friends still come around, Dad. They call me ma'am now. The room went quiet. Even the coffee machine stopped humming, like it knew to stay still for this part. Dad looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something shift behind his eyes. Regret. Maybe even awe. Lila Vio. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the maid. I was the woman who owned the house. Soft orchestral rise. Hopeful, triumphant. Lila Vio. And it wasn't about proving him wrong. It was about finally standing where I belonged. Unafraid, unashamed, and entirely my own. Lila Vio. For a long moment, nobody said a word. The sound of snow tapping against the window filled the silence like nature itself was holding its breath. Dad finally spoke first. So, you really did all this on your own? I nodded. Every inch. He looked around again. The hardwood floors, the art, the perfectly trimmed Christmas tree. There was pride flickering behind his eyes, but it wrestled with something heavier. Guilt. Ethan stepped forward, rubbing the back of his neck. Look, Lila. Dad didn't mean to. I raised my hand gently. Ethan, it's okay. I'm not angry. I just learned what I needed to from that time. Lila Vio. The old version of me would have wanted an apology, tears, maybe even a hug. But the woman standing there didn't need any of that. I didn't come for closure. I came for clarity. Dad cleared his throat. I was thinking maybe you could help Ethan. He's been trying to get something going with his career, but things are rough. Maybe you're firm. I smiled politely and sat down, crossing my legs. Maybe. But not unless something changes first. He frowned. Changes? I leaned forward slightly, my tone calm, but steady. Yes. If I'm going to help, then I need honesty from both of you. Dad shifted in his chair. What kind of honesty? That day, I said quietly, you treated me like a maid because you thought serving others was all I was good for. I forgave that. But I won't let either of you treat me or any woman like that again. Ethan's face softened. I didn't realize how bad it felt for you back then. I was a kid. Then grow from it, I said. That's all I want. Use what you have to lift people up, not look down at them. Lila Vio. The words came easier than I thought they would. For once, my voice didn't shake. It carried weight. Dad leaned back, quiet. His fingers tapped the armrest, slow and uncertain. I guess I thought I was teaching you strength. I met his eyes. You were. Just not in the way you meant to. Pause. I'll help Ethan. I continued softly. I'll even mentor him, if he's serious. But I'm not saving anyone who doesn't want to change. And I won't work with people who think my worth is something they can measure. Ethan nodded, his voice small. Deal. Dad swallowed hard. And me? What do I need to do? I smiled faintly. Start by listening. Not talking, just listening. Maybe then you'll understand who I became when you stopped looking. Lila Vio. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It was peace, the kind you earn after years of silence and survival. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening just enough for me to see it. And for the first time, he didn't call me kiddo. He said, I'm proud of you, Lila. Lila Vio. Funny. I'd waited my whole life to hear those words. But now that I had them, I realized I didn't need them anymore. Soft orchestral note rises. Closure, calm power. Lila Vio. Respect feels different when you don't have to fight for it. It feels earned. Quiet.
Complete.
Lila Vio. After they left, the apartment felt strangely quiet, not empty, just peaceful. The kind of peace you only get when you've finally said everything you needed to say. Snow kept falling outside, soft and endless. The tree lights glowed against the windows, casting gold reflections on the floor. I walked over to the mantel and picked up Mom's snowflake ornament, the one I'd carried the night I left home. The crack down its center was still there, catching light like a scar turned silver. I hung it near the top of the tree, right under the star. Lila Vio. For years, I thought that broken snowflake represented everything I lost. But standing there, I realized it represented everything I became.
People break.
Families break. But breaking doesn't mean ending. Sometimes, it just means reshaping into something stronger, sharper, more beautiful. Soft piano note. A few days later, Dad called again. Not for help, just to talk. He asked about my work, my projects, the new designs for the hotel chain we'd landed. And for the first time, he listened. No interruptions, no corrections. Just quiet, genuine interest. Ethan sent me pictures of the nonprofit project he started, designing homes for low-income families. He wrote, "You inspired this." Lila Vio. Change doesn't happen all at once. It's slow, uneven, and sometimes fragile. But it happens when you stop living to please people who can't see your worth. That Christmas, I didn't go back home. I didn't need to. Home was finally with me, in every candle I lit, every client I helped, every inch of space I built with my own hands. I poured myself a cup of cocoa, curled up on the couch, and looked out at the snow-covered city. Somewhere, a carol played softly, Silent Night. Lila Vio. And for the first time in years, it truly was. Silent. Peaceful.
Mine.
Pause, then quiet exhale. I touched the snowflake ornament again, feeling its cool surface under my fingertips. Lila softly. Thanks, Mom, for teaching me how to shine, even when I cracked. Music swells. Emotional resolution. Lila Vio. 2 days before Christmas, my dad treated me like a maid. But this Christmas, I finally understood what it means to serve, not others, not expectations, but myself. With love, with grace, and without apology. Fade out, soft piano, distant bells ringing.